Hello students, today we will do question number 33 of exercise and 34 is the direct application of this derivation. We have to derive a formula. Now the question is, a particle of mass m and the charge minus q, so it is negatively charged particle, enters between the two plates where one plate is positively charged and other plate is negatively charged. This particle enter with a constant speed Vx. The particle enter with a constant speed Vx means the horizontal speed remains constant throughout the motion. Now since the particle is charged, this negative charge particle will be attracted towards the positive plate or it will be deflected from its original path. It enters along the x-axis, but due to the force, Coulombian force, it will be deflected from its original path. We have to find out that its vertical deflection at the far edge of the plate. So we assume that it is deflected at the end point. Depending upon the electric field intensity, the particle may strike the plate anywhere in between. But here it is given that at a far edge of the plate. So we consider that a particle will strike at this edge of the plate while coming out from the uniform electric field. So the originally it enters along the x-axis, but due to the Coulombian force it is deflected. Now we assume that it comes out at the end point. This is not necessary that it always comes out at that point. It may strike anywhere on this plate. Now let this deflection be denoted by y. So we have to prove that this y is equal to this. Now it is given that the particle enter with a constant speed. Let us assume the particle comes out, or when it comes out from the electric field, the time is t. So let Vx be the constant speed along x-axis and t be the time when particle is deflected by distance y. So this is y is a deflecting angle, deflecting distance. We have to find out this y. Now for x-axis, we know in the projectile motion we divide such motion into two components. We deal with x component and y component. Here the horizontal speed is constant. So for a x-axis, we write Vx is equal to the horizontal distance. Like we have a projectile motion where we took the range. So here it is the length of the plate. So distance upon time. Therefore, time is equal to L upon Vx. Now this is for x component or along the x-axis. Now let us consider the acceleration of this charged particle along the y-axis because it is attracted towards the positive plate. So there is a y component of acceleration. Since the speed along the x-axis is constant, ax is equal to 0. So we have not taken the acceleration. We know in a projectile motion the horizontal acceleration is 0, ax is 0, and throughout the motion the horizontal component remains constant. Only the vertical components changes. So for y component, the magnitude of force acting on particle is, now force is equal to Q into E. We are taking only the magnitude, the direction is clear that the particle will move along the y-axis. This implies, now force can be written as mass into acceleration. So acceleration is equal to QE upon m. This is our equation number 2. Now this is the y component, so I am writing AY. You have to remember AX is equal to 0. Now I have to find out the deflection. So we take the help of the second equation of motion. We know that y is equal to v naught yt plus half ay t square. So we have to find out the vertical displacement or a vertical distance. So y is equal to v naught yt plus half ay t square. Here v naught y is equal to 0. The particle enter with a constant speed vx. So here initial velocity along the x-axis or final velocity along the x-axis remains same as it was in a projectile motion. Here the vertical component or the y component of the speed is 0. Therefore, y is equal to half ay t square. That is equation number 3. Now we will substitute equation 1 and 2 in equation number 3. So let us substitute this equation 1 and 2 in equation 3. Therefore, y is equal to half ay, that is QE upon m, and we have t square. So t square is equal to L square upon Vx square. So this is the deflection of a particle along the y-axis. Therefore, y is equal to half QE upon m Vx square into L square. So this is equation is similar to the projectile motion. Clearly the charge value is known to us. It is constant, E is constant, M constant, horizontal speed will be given to you. L is the length of the plate. Here we are assuming at a far edge of the plate, so we have taken the length, it strike at the end or it comes out at the far edge away from the origin. Now this is a origin. So this is equation. From this it is clear that here y is proportional to L square, and therefore such the motion, and therefore motion is similar to the projectile motion. So this motion is similar to the projectile motion, since the trajectory is parabolic, and y or the deflection along the y-axis is proportional to there it was a range, here we have a L square. Also you can see that this deflection is also directly proportional to Q by M. So the particle having Q by M ratio more will be deflected more. So whenever the different particles are given, like a proton, electron, alpha particles, you have to find out the ratio Q by M, because the electric field for all the particle will be same. Suppose it is given all particle enter with the same speed, the length of the plate is same. So now this deflection depend only upon the ratio Q by M. So if the ratio of Q by M is more or large, the deflection of that particle will be the maximum, as we have seen in question number 14, I think 13 or 14. You refer that question. Three particles were given, particle 1, 2 and 3, and there we have directly written that the deflection for one particle, say particle 3, I think it was a particle 3, the deflection was maximum for it. There we have directly written that the ratio of q by m for the particle 3 is more, so it will be deflected more. So this deflection always depend on the ratio of q by m. Now in continuation with this 33 question, we have a 34 question where all these values are given. Let us see the question number 34. Now in continuation to question number 33, we have question number 34, where a particle is entering with a horizontal speed 2 into 10 raised to 6 meter per second. The electric field is given and the E value and ME value is known to us. We have to find out where the electron strike at the upper plate. Moreover, another quantity which is given is the distance between these two plates, that is the distance between two plates is 0.5 centimeter. Now in this question, the length of the plate is not given, but this was the formula which we have derived for a vertical deflection. Now it is clear in that question the deflection was at the far edge of the plate. Now here we don't know where the deflection will be, so we change a diagram. Let us assume this particle strike at this point. Now if it strike at this point, the x component or the x coordinate is suppose x. This is the x coordinate of point P. So x, and the distance between these two plates is 0.5 centimeter. So here it becomes 0.25. This is the half, because in our derivation this y was this deflection. Y is a deflection from its original path. So it should be half. So when we place a value for a y, it should be 0.25 centimeter. So these are the coordinates in the terms of centimeter. Now we have to find out where the electron strikes at the upper plate. So let us assume the electron strike at a point P whose x coordinate, now this is its x coordinate and the y coordinate will be this, which is the half of the distance between the plate. So let electron strike at plate strike at point P on a plate. Now this is the formula we know. This is the formula for far edge point. This is the formula for far edge point. Here the electron strikes at a distance x, the x coordinate. So let us write the coordinate of a point P, x 0.25 centimeter on plate. So clearly in the place of L we will be writing x, and in the place of y, that is a vertical deflection, this is the y, that is a half of the plate. So substituting L is equal to x and y is equal to 0.5 divided by 2 into 10 raised to minus 2, that is equal to 0.5, that is in, let us take this in meter. Now we substitute this value that is equal to 0.25 into 10 raised to minus 2 meter. And we have to find out x. Therefore, y is equal to half q. So we have an electron. So I write E upon m Vx square x square. And therefore, x square is equal to 2y m Vx square upon E. And therefore, x is equal to under root 2y m Vx square upon E. All these values are given to us. So this is equal to x is equal to under root 2 into, you have to remember that d is a distance. Here distance given is 0.5 centimeter. That is the distance between the two plates. And we have taken the deflecting angle, deflecting distance as a y. So y should be the half of d. This implies y is equal to d by 2. So x is equal to 2 into y, that is 0.25 into 10 raised to minus 2 meter into the mass of electron, that is 9.1 into 10 raised to minus 31 kg into the horizontal speed, that is 2 into 10 raised to 6 whole square upon 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 into electric field, again 9.1 into 10 raised to 2. So this 9.1 get cancelled. You substitute all these values and find out where the electron strikes the upper plate. Now after substituting this value, we will find out. Now after substituting this value, we find 1.125 into 10 raised to minus 2 meter, or x is equal to 1.125 centimeter. Now this is the x coordinate where the electron will strike. So this is the distance from the origin where the electron will strike. Now this answer does not match with our textbook answer, because there they have taken this y as 0.5 centimeter. Now clearly in our question number 33, we have taken y as a deflection from the original path. So if there is no electric field, the particle must have traveled in a straight line or along the x-axis. But because of the electric field present, it was deflected along the y-axis. So y was taken as a deflection in our derivation in question number 33. So here the deflection along the y-axis or y coordinate should be half of distance between the two plates. However, in the answer of a textbook, they have taken this y as 0.5 centimeter. So if you substitute 0.5 centimeter here y, then you will get the answer as given in the book, which is not correct. So do this necessary correction in our calculation. You have to remember y is a vertical deflection from its original path. So original path was along the x-axis, but it is deflected along the y-axis. Clearly, since this y distance or this is 0.5 centimeter, the y coordinate should be half of it. So this is question number 34. Now let us come to question number 31, which is a discussion. Now we know that proton, electron and neutron are the fundamental particles. This proton, electron and neutron are considered fundamental particles. Now we consider them as a fundamental particles, but recent research indicates that proton and neutron are made up of more fundamental particles called quarks. So now the recent theory suggests that the proton and neutron are not the fundamental particle, they are made up of more fundamental particles which are called as quarks. So it is known now that the proton and neutron are made up of quark. Now recent theory suggests that there are 6 types of quark, but the proton and neutron are made up of the quarks which are known as up quark and down quark. So as far as proton and neutron is concerned, we are taking 2 types of quark, up quark and the down quark. However, recent theory states there are 6 types of quark, so remaining 4 types of quark you find out, it is left as an exercise. So we consider only 2 types of quark. Number 1, up quark, and it is denoted by small u, and the charge of this quark is plus 2 by 3 e. And second is down quark, it is denoted by small d, and its charge is minus 1 by 3 e. Now if proton or neutron is made up of one quark, say the proton is made up of up quark, only one up quark, then 2 by 3e is the charge of up quark, then the charge of proton becomes 2 by 3e. This is clearly the violation of the quantization of electric charge, which states that the electric charge or the amount of charge on any body is in the integral multiple of fundamental electric charge. Now we know that this E cannot be in fraction. So if we consider that a proton is made up of only one quark or it is made up of only one down quark, then there is a violation of the quantization of an electric charge. However, the quantization of the electric charge is the fundamental law. The charges should be quantized. It means a single quark cannot exist. A single quark cannot exist. They always occur in pairs. There would be 2 quarks, 3 quarks, so that the quantization of electric charge is maintained. It is believed that proton is made up of 2 up quark and 1 down quark, that is UUD. So the proton is made up of 2 up quark and 1 down quark. Now let us see whether the quantization of the charge is maintained. So 2 up quark means 2 by 3 plus 2 by 3, and 1 down quark, that is minus 1 by 3. So it becomes 4 by 3 minus 1 by 3, that is again plus E. This is 2 by 3E, 2 by 3E plus 2 by 3E. So 4 by 3E, 4 by 3. So again answer comes out to be E. It means if we believe that a proton is made up of 2 up quark and down quark, then also the charge of the proton comes out to be plus E. Means there is no violation of the quantization of electric charge. Similarly, neutron is made up of 2 down quark and 1 up quark. That is UDD. That is UDD. Now let us check. We know that a neutron is neutral. So 1 up quark. So 2 by 3e minus 1 by 3e minus 1 by 3e. This comes out to be 0. So again, whether the proton and neutron are the fundamental particles or they are made up of quarks, it does not make any difference to our theory of electricity. But till date, individual quark is not discovered. They occur or they appear in pairs, as in the case of proton and neutron. So this is a simple discussion for proton and neutron. Now let us come to question number 32. We have two parts. Now some arbitrary electric field configuration is given. Means the electric field is non-uniform. So some arbitrary configuration is given. Suppose this is the arbitrary configuration. This is the electric field lines. This is the arbitrary field configuration. Now there is a null point. Null point means where the resultant electric field intensity is 0. So the question is, some arbitrary electric field is given and a null point is there. Null point means where the resultant electric field intensity is 0. Now if we place a test charge there, that is, the equilibrium is necessarily unstable. Now what does it mean? We have to understand this statement. We have to prove that the equilibrium of a test charge is necessarily unstable. Now we need to understand this statement. First we assume that this is a null point. O is a null point. Null point means the resultant electric field intensity at this point is 0. If I place a test charge, it will be at a stable equilibrium. It will not move because the resultant electric field is 0. But to show that this equilibrium is necessarily unstable. Now equilibrium is unstable means there are two possibilities for equilibrium. Either it should be stable or unstable. If I move a test charge and it come back to its original position, now the test charge will come back or any body will come back to its original position only when there is some restoring force. If it come back to its original position, then that equilibrium is said to be stable. That equilibrium is said to be stable. So if I move something and it come back to its original position, it means whatever force I applied, it is equal and opposite to the restoring force. The restoring force brought it back to its main position or original position. Then you can say that the equilibrium is stable. We have to prove that the test charge placed at this origin or the null point, this origin, or I call it a null point. So a test charge is placed at a null point and the configuration of electric field is arbitrary, random. Now if a test charge Q0 is placed, suppose the Q0 is placed. If I move this is my null point. If I move this test charge anywhere and if it come back, then the equilibrium is stable, otherwise it is unstable. Now let us assume that I move this test charge to point P or somewhere here point R, say somewhere at point S. Now if I move it towards point P, say at this point, what will happen? Here this positive charge, if I say this is a field line, this field will exert force on it. If we assume the test charge is positive, all this positive charge will repel it away, and here this positive charge will also repel it away. Means Now the density is not same. Somewhere the field is more, somewhere the field is less. So if I move the charge to point P or point S or point R, it is clear that the field is non-uniform. It is an arbitrary configuration. So by sense, it will never come back to its original position. Say the field is less at this point and here the field is more. So once I move towards this, it will throw it away. And that larger field will again throw it in opposite direction. So it will not come back to it at the same position because the restoring force will not be same. That is, by sense we can say that a test charge is necessarily unstable. However, if I consider this is the null point, if I consider a small Gaussian surface, now this is a Gaussian surface, a small Gaussian surface around the null point. Now at null point, E is equal to 0. Now if at null point the electric field is 0 and if I take test charge outside this Gaussian surface, it will never come back to its original position because the charge enclosed in Gaussian surface, I am talking about the source charge, is 0. So the test charge which is moved inside the Gaussian surface will move towards the electric field intensity which has a large magnitude. So if I move it anywhere except this null point, it will never come back to its original position. At null point the electric field is 0. Moreover, you have to remember whenever you move a particle, there should be some restoring force, and that restoring force should be equal and opposite to the Coulombian force. But here the electric field given is not uniform, or it is an arbitrary configuration. Somewhere the intensity of the field is more, somewhere the intensity is less. So if I move it in any direction, the electric force will not be same, and therefore the restoring force will not be able to bring that particle or a test charge to the same position. So once it is disturbed from its original position, the test charge is unstable. Initially when it is kept at a null point, it is called equilibrium. It is at rest, no force is acting, the resultant force is 0. But as soon as you move it anywhere inside this electronic configuration, in this electric field configuration, it will perform a motion. It will not come back to its original position. Now this is the case with the test charge, and the electric field intensity configuration is arbitrary. Let us consider the second part where we have two source charges which will give us the clear understanding of this concept. So let us see the second part. Now let us understand or verify this result for the system of two charges. Now here it will be more clear that why the test charge is necessarily unstable. Here it is the electric field has an arbitrary configuration, so it is little bit confusing to understand this. But remember, whenever I move it, the restoring force should act on it, and the restoring force will only act when there is some negative charge enclosed in the Gaussian surface. But we have placed the test charge at the null point. Null point means at this position does not consist of any source charges. The source charges are not there. And if I consider a Gaussian surface, it should enclose some source charge. But it is a null point, no source charge is there. So no restoring force act on it and it will move away. So for a particle to come back to its original position, we should have a restoring force. Now this thing should be clear with the help of the two charges. Let us take two charge plus Q plus Q. Both the charges have a same magnitude. This is the midpoint. Now if I keep a test charge at the midpoint, clearly this test charge will be repelled away, and this test charge will be repelled away by this source. This is the source 1 and source 2. Clearly, if this test charge is placed at the midpoint, it will be called as a null point. It is in equilibrium. Now, if I move this test charge by a small distance along the x-axis, so what will happen? It will be repelled away and it comes to this mid position. So it will be in equilibrium position in this situation. So if I move it along the axis, it come back to its original position. It is like a simple pendulum. It will perform simple harmonic motion, but it will come at rest. But what happen if I move this test charge at the point, say O dash? Now if I move this test charge at a point O dash, this particle will repel it away and this particle will repel it away at this point. Now, in any case, it will never come back to its original position. If I draw a Cartesian coordinate system here, these two angles are same, say theta, theta. Now, if I drop a perpendicular, this will be one component, this will be the another component. Now, these two components being equal in magnitude but opposite in direction cancels each other. But this vertical component, both the components will be in the same direction. So this particle, when it is displaced from O to O dash, it will never come back to O position. It will move away along the y-axis. It will move normal to these two charges. So if I am moving along the x-axis, it will perform SHM, or the restoring force act on it, and it will come back to its original position. Except along the x-axis, if I move it along any direction, if I keep it here, anywhere, for a proper geometrical shape, we have taken normal to it. So if I move it normal at O dash, these two components, say these are the two parallel components and these are the two normal components of this two charges. So these two components will cancel because the force acting is in this direction, and the force acting on this direction is this. This is the force acting on a test charge. If I place a test charge here, the force acting due to this is this. So you have to find out the resultant. That we have done, and the charge will move in along the y-axis. So if I take a system of two charges, then the equilibrium of a test charge is necessarily unstable. It will never come back to its original position. So this is question number 32. So here we complete our chapter number 1 also. Have a good day.